Hey everybody, welcome to This is 42 podcast. This week we have a very special guest, Gary Vaynerchuk. He is an amazing entrepreneur and a motivator known worldwide. We had a limited time. I managed to squeeze through a fair few questions. We spoke about capitalism. We spoke about his hustle, the 24/7 work hours. We spoke about why he does what he does. What is the end goal? It was a great conversation. I had a lot of fun, and I think Gary did too. I hope you enjoyed this.
Thank you for coming on the show, man.
Thanks for having me.
So I'm going to start off because this audience that you're talking to may actually not know who you are.
Makes sense.
So, who is Gary Vee?
Gary Vee is an entrepreneur who was born in the Soviet Union, came to the U.S. As a young kid, lived in a studio apartment with a lot of family members, grinded his way through his youth through lemonade stands and shoveling snow and washing cars, and then ultimately found sports cards. Did that very well as a 12-year-old, 13-year-old. His father worked real hard and eventually owned a liquor store in New Jersey. I joined that business when I was 14, carrying cases, dusting bottles, realized that people collected wine the way that I collected sports cards. That was the big connection. Decided I wanted to help my family business, felt that I could. And launched an early e-commerce wine business in 1996, which is crazy to think about.
Yeah, right.
How hot e-com is now, and something I was doing 23 years ago, and went on to become an entrepreneur that a lot of people look at. Wrote 5 New York Times bestselling books, built a huge wine business for my dad, then went on my own with my brother, started and currently run one of the largest marketing agencies in the world called Vaynermedia, independent agencies in the world. Did a really good job investing in early stage startups, Facebook, Twitter, Tumblr, and then became a pretty prolific public speaker and content producer, podcast, blogs, millions of followers across all the contemporary social networks. And
And here you are. I mean, I witnessed you. Actually, I've seen you live a couple of times. So I saw yesterday there was about 5,000 odd people. Not yesterday, a few days ago in Sydney, Australia. So you're definitely you command an audience. But my first question is not going to go down the direction of business and whatnot. My first question is: see, I like sneakers.
Okay.
And I know you like sneakers.
yeah,
But I also know you hate Jordans.
yes,
And you actually said you hate Michael Jordan.
that's right.
Why?
Because I grew up a humongous Knicks fan.
Right.
I'm 43 years old, and the prime years of the best Knick years in the 90s, Michael Jordan stopped me from winning a championship. And, me hating Michael Jordan doesn't mean that I don't understand his all-time greatness.
Right.
I don't want to wear Jordans. I
Right.
don't think that's so crazy.
So what you like?
You know what's crazy about that? I don't even think they look good.
So-
It's funny. Like, I don't even like the way they actually look. Like, I mean it. I'm wearing, Air Force Ones right now. Like, I like Air Force Ones visually.
Right.
The Jordans that look more Air Force One-y, I like. The ones that are like kind of like, I don't think people look good in Jordans, to be frank.
Well, there's probably about 50 shoes I think I'm going to
The
throw out. But
Ewings
this
make me
one-
happy. Yes.
Now this one I've got it pure.
You're
I
being
put it
very
on
nice.
for you.
I wore the original versions of those in the 80s. I was like the only kid. Everyone's like wearing Jordans. I'm like wearing Ewings. Yeah, I mean, I kind of think it's funny because a lot of people are so taken aback by my stance on this issue. I think if you're a true fan of a sports team,
Yeah.
and your arch rival that you never once beat, the thought of liking that person is ludicrous.
I get your logic.
You know?
It
I
makes sense.
respect
Yeah.
him. He's a top 3, depending on how you want to argue. Most people put him number 1, but I think it's because most people didn't get to watch the complete domination that Wilt Chamberlain put on the league, or Bill Russell, for that matter, winning 9 championships, whatever. But yeah, I don't like him.
Okay. All right. Let's
I
move
also
on.
hate Tom Brady. Doesn't mean that I don't understand he's the best American quarterback to ever play the sport.
Right.
You
I get
know?
it. I get your logic. All right, let's talk about hustle. Like,
Yes.
This is the primary message you get across to people. You've got to grind 24/7. You know, you got to do what you got to do. But my question is really about, with working that hard, as every human being comes into the point where you've got to strike a balance, or people say you've got to strike a
100.
balance.
I think you do. I think early, I kind of hit the scene in 2009.
Yeah.
And we were in a global economy meltdown.
Right.
And we were living off of a frothy 2000 to 2007, 8. And I thought that people were underestimating work ethic. And so, yes, hustle was something that I was articulating as a foundation of my success. But I only think one should work a lot if they genuinely enjoy it.
Right.
Or they have to provide for their family and they're working 2 jobs and it's almost the extreme in the other way. Yeah. I'd like to do a better job over the next decade to make sure that my primary message is happiness.
Right.
I mean that.
Right.
That being said, in the extreme overcorrection where people have started branding things like hustle porn or things of that nature, hard work is part of the equation.
Yeah.
But yes, I think burnout or mental anguish
Absolutely.
is something I'm very scared of. But I do not believe that comes from, I think a lot of people put hard work as the gateway to that issue. I actually think that is insecurity and lack of self-esteem that leads to that anguish.
So my follow-up question with that comment is quite simply, there is quite an interest, and it's a very popular thing. It's the cool thing to do, become an entrepreneur, right? Everyone wants to be an entrepreneur.
100%.
Like when I was at this event where you spoke, there's about 5,000 people, and I can see everyone wants to be an entrepreneur.
Yes.
Do you think there's a danger
Yes.
because not everyone is cut out to be an
Yes.
entrepreneur? Okay, so how do you tell somebody that they've been hustling as hard as they can, but something's not working out? How does one figure out when to give up?
I ask them if they're happy.
Right.
Like if you're hustling your podcast and through sheer will, through live events and pre-roll advertisers, and you're making $42,000 a year, if that's more fun and you're happier than making $78,000 being, an accountant, then I try to encourage that person to live the lifestyle of a 42,000 year person versus a 78,000 year person. I think that I think we have to define our own success. And I think doing what you want to be doing is the ultimate.
Right.
Now,
But there's the practical application of you got to look after family, and you got to do all these kind of things, right?
But that's a modern mistake in that people usually spend more than they make. There's a lot of immigrants who take care of their family making $35,000 a year. The problem is there's a lot of people who make $200,000 a year and live like they're making $300,000 a year.
Right.
Because they want to keep up with the Joneses and they want stuff.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, you can live a lot of ways.
And that's one way to be.
Family. I once lived 2 years with my great grandparents and my grandparents and my parents in a home. You could do that.
Yeah.
Especially 25-year-olds who are like complaining. Go live with 7 of your buddies in a shit place. Like I'm fascinated by people's misunderstanding of it's not how much you make, it's how much you spend.
Yeah. Right.
Of course, if you take fucking Uber and order out every night and need the freshest fucking flyest, flexiest clothes, you're going to need a fuckload of money.
Yeah.
Why not take the train?
Right.
Why not live in a shitty spot? Why not cook every night? Like, people are fucking entitled.
Yeah, no, I get it. Okay, so this leads into the economy, which is that we operate in. It's capitalism, is the economic system.
Yes.
Is capitalism a good thing or a bad thing?
I don't know. That's above my pay grade. Meaning, here's what I mean by that.
Right.
I've spent very little time understanding the macro global economic impact of capitalism versus viable other options. I can tell you that communism is not good.
I agree.
Because I lived in it. Let me rephrase. I left early. I understand it through the eyes of my parents and relatives. And I think it suppresses the natural human. I think extreme capitalism that concentrates wealth to a small group is bad, because I think that leads to the French Revolution and heads start rolling.
Yeah, right.
So I think capitalism, I think anything in life is good when it's balanced.
Yep.
I think modern capitalism is showing strains of vulnerability because there's too much consolidation of wealth to too small of a group, which I always think is a vulnerability.
How would you respond to somebody if they were to say capitalism is just evil and it's ultimately geared to fail?
My intuition when I hear somebody go that extreme is that they are deeply ideological and deeply entitled and have an undertone of laziness.
What do you mean entitled?
They expect the fucking government or somebody else who's working hard to pay for some of their subsidies. That's what I mean. If they say it's inherently evil and will fail.
Right.
If someone says capitalism, like any system, has its shortcomings and should be audited in its current state, I would say that that's somebody who's being thoughtful.
Okay. Yeah. So what would you say to, there's lots of business mentors or people who people tell people how to make money when they say things like, by any means necessary.
Yeah.
Get rich or die trying.
Yeah, I don't like that shit.
How do you, it can be very appealing. You watch some of these videos, as you put it, it's very, very enticing, and people sort of get drawn to that. How does one look beyond the sort of the
pay attention to what the person's asking for from you?
Right. Yeah.
I always tell youngsters and friends, you have to look in the eyes of the messenger. What is she or he looking for from you? I'm looking for admiration.
Okay.
My content is not a top of the funnel to some landing page that is asking you for $899 for my ebook.
Why is admiration important to you?
I'm not sure.
Right.
It's something that I'm spending a lot of time on. It feels naturally good.
Right.
I think it's a DNA trait.
Right. Okay.
But I'm not sure.
Okay.
I'm sure it inherently is, if I go deep, I think about things like, man, my family was going through a ton of shit the first 5 years of my life. Maybe they were so focused on everything, like getting to the new world, that maybe I was but I got over coddled and loved too. Like, I'm not sure,
yeah, right.
but I promise you that I want admiration over money.
Right.
That has become very clear to me. I'm not against money.
Sure.
But if I was to choose, like, my ability to have the biggest mastermind, the biggest funnel, the biggest fund, give me some of your money, I could win that game at the highest level. Number one, more than anyone.
Sure.
Because I have gift of conversation.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. I'm charismatic as fuck.
It's and truth. Self-aware, obviously.
Clearly. So I'm not sure.
Right.
But when I hear what you're talking about, if the next sentence of, make money, die trying, if the next sentence is, and if you pay me, then I'm already checked the fuck out.
Yeah, right. So how do you get out of the mindset? And I've seen a lot of entrepreneurs do this, where, you start doing something and you're not really sure about it, but it starts making money. And then you make excuses. You may be doing something ethically and morally questionable, but you convince yourself, right? How do you get out of that?
Every day.
What would you say to somebody like, you know what you're doing? Because we are very good at convincing ourselves, look, at the end of the day, this is paying for this is paying for this. I'm just going to do it for a short time. Many reasons. But people sort of keep doing that. Because I know people who...
Oh, I know unlimited people who do this.
Right.
This is a very good question by you. Look, the answer is that person is flawed.
Right.
The question is why?
Why?
My belief is it's because they're insecure and they need stuff to make themselves feel good, to show others that they're successful, because they're not happy with themselves.
Yeah, right.
And they need jewelry and success and cars and girls and planes to show everybody that they're winning, because they're not winning with themselves.
And add social media to that equation, where you get social validation on every given second.
Yep. But social media is, that person was looking for that validation pre-internet.
But social media just supercharged it for this person, right?
No, I'm actually a dissent to this voice.
Sure.
I think social media has exposed the truth of, not accelerated. That person was flexing in the office.
But now they got millions of people around the world admiring that flexing.
Yeah, but it's the same fucking game. Whether you're trying to floss in front of 8 or 8 million, you're still vulnerable to the floss.
Sure. But the influence of you doing it at an office in front of 8 million people is enormous. You're pretty much tuning the minds of another generation.
Yeah, I mean, sure, but the reality is why? And what are you trying to do for yourself?
True.
You know, I don't find a lot of those people being thoughtful about what they're doing for the next generation. They're too inherently selfish.
Absolutely.
So it doesn't fucking matter.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. All right. So
I don't think Dan Blazarian was overthinking about what he was doing for the next generation.
no, he's not.
I
Clearly.
think Dan, and by the way, me and everybody else, like, I think people are doing what they think is what they want to be doing.
But you at least have a conscious acknowledgement of you want admiration, and to do that you have to be good.
Correct.
Right? So you are doing good. But some people
but for me, that's what makes me happy, and I don't have any interest in judging somebody who wants to fuck every night. I don't have any judgment on somebody who wants $1 billion in cash.
Sure.
I struggle with judgment, but to your point, I will only use the word luck, and I hate using that word. Luckily for me, I was structured in a way where what I want is inherently selfless.
Right.
Cool. But that leads to gratitude more than judgment.
Yeah.
More than looking around at everybody else and judging them. I just stay in my own head of being grateful for what I had.
All right. Cool, man. So there are also entrepreneurs that have access to mentors and getting advice.
Yes.
Not just the online stuff, but there are lots of programs all around the world as well. But can an entrepreneur get too much advice from various sources and be confused?
Of course. It's why I don't have any mentors.
So you never had a mentor?
The market is my mentor.
Right.
I don't want to listen to anybody who did it before. I need to listen to what the consumer wants now.
Right. I mean, I think Nassim Taleb says getting advice from somebody who's already done it, like getting yesterday's lottery ticket numbers.
Plus, most people give advice. Again, another thing that I'm excited about is I'm trying to reverse engineer people, not tell them to be like me.
Right.
I know I'm inherently different, like we all are. And so advice often is too one-dimensional. I think this is a big game. I try to push people towards self-awareness more so than doing it like me.
Yeah. All right. Because
I apologize. I want to just add one more point because I think it's interesting. I also think that most people that become mentor thirsty are actually using it as an excuse not to do. By paying or by always educating, it's just the same version of somebody who just keeps going to school. Those who keep loving going to school are ones that don't want to do.
Yeah, right. Okay.
So a lot of people feel, it's why I fear people watching too much of my content. There's a lot of people who think watching or listening to my content is them actually doing something.
So they are vicariously living their life through you.
They're getting that adrenaline rush through my energy and my advice that they think they're building. They're building, but they're not acting on, which is why occasionally I get very aggressive and kind of call them out and say, stop watching my shit.
Yeah.
Like enough.
Right.
The problem is, after doing that for the last 5 years, I've realized something terrible is happening. When I do that, they don't like that. They're like, fuck, you fucked me up. And then they go listen to somebody worse. I thought I was getting them to do shit, but then I started looking at what was happening and I'm like, wait a minute, now they're paying some huckster. Instead of getting good advice for free, they're playing a fucking lowlife money because I made them uncomfortable because I called them out on their shit and they don't want to do. So they're so not interested in doing that they're willing to pay somebody who sucks shit. That's what these piranhas are doing.
So tell me something. So this is the world you operate in. But the reason that we wanted to talk to you is you are a bit different to everybody else in this particular world, because you got nothing to sell and you're telling people, my advice is free, etc. But you operate in that sort of that world. Can you change that world, or in
Yes.
that world? How do you plan to do that?
By showing that it could be done.
Right. All right.
I mean, there's a 13-year-old now who's going to be impacted by me, who's going to decide to replicate the way I did it versus the way somebody who's the bad version of me doing it. You need somebody to be the example.
Yeah, sure. No, I agree.
Right?
I agree. Absolutely.
I have enormous pride in the fact that I'm putting enormous pressure. I'm unbelievably disliked quietly by many of the biggest personalities that look like me because I'm putting pressure.
Because I remember being at an event where you came up on stage and said, whatever the other guy was selling, don't buy it. Something along those lines, which is...
Yeah, I mean, by accident, I caught the last 10 minutes prepping. It just is bullshit.
Yeah, right. I get it.
I'm super not interested in it's normally $15,000, but for these 4 minutes, it's $89.
Yeah.
The fuck?
All right. I know your time is quite valuable. I really appreciate you taking the time.
I'm happy to do it.
I hope you enjoyed
I enjoyed
the
it
conversation,
tremendously.
man.
You did a great job. Thank you, mate.
Appreciate it. All right. We'll just take a couple of photos.
Yeah.
The team.
Hi guys, thank you so much for watching. If you like this video and want more, don't forget to like, subscribe and leave a comment because we'd love to hear what you think. Until next time.